Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Thinking Out Loud podcast, where we talk everything leadership. So today I have someone very special, Tumelo Mothotaone. I hope I said that one right.
Perfectly.
Perfect. Tumelo, thank you for coming through. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you.
All right, it's been a pleasure. So, Tumelo, tell me. Obviously, we'll talk everything. Leadership, business. But firstly, I'd just like to get to know you better. So tell me, where does storytelling really grab you in terms of, I mean, you're a brilliant storyteller, but where does it start for you?
I think for me, it definitely started from a young age. When you introduced me as Tumelo Mothotaone, for non-Sepedi speakers, it means I'm the first grandchild of the Mothotaones. Although some of our viewers have questioned, are you sure grandfather was honest? I'm like, leave my grandfather. I'm the first, he said so, and that's it. So, but he was a storyteller. He was a social worker. And, you know, when you are your grandparents' child, you always, you know, have a lot of ample time spending with them, where you're under a mango tree and you're either listening to how they grew up or they're teaching you certain skills in the garden. My grandfather loved jazz music, so we used to listen to a lot of jazz, Jonas Kwangwa, a lot growing up. So I think I would say my grandparents were my first encounter with storytelling.
All right, let's dive deep a little bit on that. I like the grandfather story.
Yeah.
So there must have been lessons also in terms of leadership that when you look back right now, it wasn't a lesson that they said, listen, let's sit down, I'm going to teach you about leadership. But when you look back, you realize that must have been a lesson of leadership, either by example or by how they were around you.
Yeah, that is spot on, Freddy, because as I've mentioned, my grandfather was a social worker and my grandmother dropped out of school in grade 2 sub B. So she had been a domestic worker. She had been one of the mamas in school outside selling during break time or after school. She had been the woman baking and selling anything she could find. But for my grandfather, I saw servant leadership. And what that means is I saw a man who allowed himself and his family to be inconvenienced at the cost of serving others. So my earliest memory of leadership with him was when we would be watching our appointment viewership TV with Generations at 8 p.m. on SABC1. And I mean, Karabo was about to bust down with something. Rahul would say, you know what, can you please excuse me and just leave the lounge because I have visitors coming. We're like, what's going on? It's late. We need to sit around and, you know, watch our favorite soapies or whatever. But he had a duty and a responsibility to counsel even beyond working hours. So people used to flock in and out of the house a lot, seeking his counsel, his advice, and he would do it till the wee hours, you know, of the morning or the late evening time. So for me, there was not something said to me, but that I definitely saw that you know, a true leader is one who serves, who inconveniences himself or herself at times just for the betterment of other people's lives.
Yeah, it must have been, I mean, you had to share him and obviously his wisdom with the community and all of that. And I assume this is, it's not in Gauteng, it's some,
Yeah, it's in Leboa.
It's Leboa, yes. And how is it growing up there? I mean, here you're being raised by somebody that has an impact in the community. I assume you must have been washed by the community as well and all of that. How did that impact you?
Oh man, growing up Guluwahomu was so wholesome. I look at my daughter now, she's turning 8, and I think, oh, my child, I wish the world was still as wholesome for children as it was when we were growing up. I mean, we used to take the tamatidi rekos gangeng and go cook. We used to take Nespresso tins and go cook. And we were fine. We were safe back in those days. I mean, we'd come back home just to eat lunch and to bath, you know. But for the rest of the day, we're out playing. One thing about Leboa, particularly where I grew up, Kokopano Street, was that it really took a village to raise a child. So when one child erred, parents wouldn't say, okay, they'll see what to do with the child. It was everyone's responsibility to discipline the child, to make sure the child was in the right order. Even for us as children, we didn't want to disappoint any parent from the street. So there was no misbehaving, no doing anything because mama utumi, mama mankopani, or mama wokang would see you. You want to make sure that you represent your family name, but also all the adults and elders on the street, because they were all our mothers. So it was such a wholesome upbringing.
And obviously, after that, I assume you have to move to Gauteng.
Yeah.
How is that journey for you? How old were you when you moved to Gauteng?
Ooh, I was in grade 11 in 2007. So my mom got a job in Johannesburg. I actually tried to negotiate with mama to stay in Polokwane, because I thought, no, I'm close to finishing matric. Maybe let me just finish and then I'll come and join you and my little brothers. But mama said, no, when you're my girl child. You need to be closer to your mother.
Yeah.
So I need you close to me. And you can imagine I'm a teenager as well. My mom wants to keep an eye on me. But the transition wasn't easy, because I got to Johannesburg, went to high school in grade 11. I was bullied for being Pedi. I was bullied for being dark skin.
Yeah.
It was interesting, because where I come from, Kopolokwane, there were different cultures and different tribes. We had Venda speaking students and Xitsonga speaking students, Bapedi and Batswana. And we never really saw, that you're different because you speak a certain language. So coming to Johannesburg and that being my experience was quite traumatic. It was a very serious bullying. I got beat up. It was a police matter. We had to go to the police. Principals were involved. It was with another fellow student or learner at my high school at the time.
Yeah.
So that for me gave me my first experience of Joburg as a very terrible one, to say the least. Yeah.
I can imagine, because obviously, I mean, you come from a household where there's great leadership. There's a spirit of Ubuntu where the communities, they're just together.
Yeah.
And now you get here, you feel all isolated and bullied and all of that.
Yeah.
Are there any lessons as a leader that you take from that experience?
Ooh, I think the first lesson is empathy. Then I didn't have empathy. I was very angry for being beaten in public by a fellow matric learner because of, a debating incident that happened in class.
Yes.
Because when I got bullied, Koskolong, I then went to debating and public speaking classes as my hideout.
Yes.
So that's where Dr. Quince and Mrs. VJ, they were my, hiding, because then I would make sure that when it came to what I was good at, speaking and debating, I would spend more time there. But now when I look back, I have more empathy for what happened. Some of the lessons is, then I was, 17, 16. I actually believed what was said to me. And I even went home and I said, Mama, I want to go back to Polokwane because maybe they're right. Maybe I have no space in this type of a school and environment. But when I look back, I think it was just all the enemy trying to feed me, bad emotions so that I wouldn't be where I am today with confidence.
I see. And that obviously... I'm sure your grandfather found out about that. Or...
Oh, no, unfortunately, they passed away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 1999, my grandfather passed away. 2003, Kuku passed away. So that was 2007. But obviously, my mom was involved. She knew about it because when she came home, she saw me drenched in blood, And I made sure that I still am the way I was, because she knocks off at 5 and the incident happened at 2 after school. I was like, I'm not changing. Yeah. You need to see me in my victim, look. And I want to go back to Polokwane because this happened. But Mama, she's the one that actually saw and got involved.
Yes. And I assume the reason why you did that is because your mother must have been your rock.
My mom is my rock. I'm my mom's rock. We have each other. And from a young age, seeing my mom struggle with raising us, I've always said to my mom, I'm your husband. I'm going to be your husband. I didn't even know what that meant. But for the fact that it had nuances of provider, protector, I wanted my mom to know that everything we went through was temporary. As soon as, I was okay and I was educated, I was going to take care of her. So we are definitely each other's rock, but more so she is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you spoke a bit about you finding that hiding space.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to look into Maya Angelou. She said there's nothing worse than the barrier of an untold story. And for me, that when I read that, it created an impression of how important it is to tell your story.
Yeah.
And during that period where you're being bullied and all of that, did entering the debating space help you tell your story in a way? Or how was that experience?
What's interesting is that, so when I got into the school, because obviously you don't make friends immediately, and I got into the school around March, April, as we were opening for the second term.
Yeah.
So everybody has made their friends, all comers know each other. You and you're coming mid-year, you're coming with another school's uniform because your mother hasn't bought you the uniform. I mean, kids were passing me say, Freddie, have you changed uniform? What's happening? I mean, are we the only ones who
Can
don't know how the
imagine.
uniform has changed? So I was just like, take me back to Polokwane, please. So obviously debating and public speaking became my hideout.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that the day that I got beaten in school, it was after our English teacher / our debating coach had said to us, oh, you two, Tumelo and said Bully, come and emulate what I want an argumentative essay to look like in writing, but come and do it as if you're speaking, because you guys attend public speaking or debating respectively. So the incident happened because my former president, please don't come for me. But the question was, should Jacob Zuma be president?
Oh.
And I'm Betty.
Tough
And it
question.
wasn't really because I was Betty, but it was more of, my answer was no, because of the charges and, everything at the time we had read about with the former president. And my opponent, who was Zulu, was saying, no, yes, because Zulus are born leaders. So that was the debate. But anyway, it wasn't a matter of who's wrong or right. It was a matter of how well you present your facts.
Yeah.
So the fight actually began after she said to me, if it were up to me, I would kill all Bedi people because you're useless. None of you are leaders. All you do is agriculture and farming, and we are leaders. So my response was, well, if you're going to kill a Bedi person, start with me. But guess what? Your kids will learn about me for the rest of their lives, because they will learn that there was once a senseless killing because someone was Bedi. And that's where it happened. So I think for me, debating was a hideout, but also it became a space for me to boldly speak out, even if it meant defending myself. But how do I defend myself in an honorable way in front of, as I'm presenting to my class, for example. So there are a lot of things that, I learned from that experience that have also led me into how I can be in a confrontational environment during an interview for a news broadcast, but let it happen professionally, not let it be personal. So sometimes when I look back into that incident, I'm like, oh, maybe you propelled me for tough discussions, but in a professional way.
Perfect. And I think that also must have helped you build that core and that fire, right, to stay resilient throughout.
Oh yeah.
Your career. If you were to speak to your 17-year-old self today, what do you say?
Ooh, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be just fine. You're gonna be just fine. Sometimes the Lord, the Lord is omnipresent and He's all-knowing. Hence, the Bible often repeats, it is written, because nothing under the sun shocks the Lord. And sometimes I believe that the reason He withholds certain information about the future is so that He doesn't scare us into moving into spaces out of fear. If you were told that your wife or the love of your life or your best friend was going to betray you, would you pursue that relationship if you foresaw what was going to happen 10 years from now, that there was going to be a betrayal? But I believe that He wants you to enjoy that relationship. He wants you to appreciate the good and the bad, so that you see that all things together eventually work together for your good. So when I look back at that 17-year-old who used to worry about the bullying, who used to worry about our upbringing and how my mom was struggling and what am I going to do to help mama and how we're going to get ourselves out of this situation, my goodness, now that I'm 34, I just, if I could go back and give her a hug and just say, it's going to be okay. You're not alone.
Sure, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, after this, I assume this is now, it leads to the beginning of your career as well.
Yeah.
In storytelling, right? Where does it start?
Oh, man. So it's 2010, the FIFA World Cup. Everybody is enjoying. Philip, who was there, I missed him.
Yeah.
Remember, Philip was here. So I missed Philip, who was here.
I remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Because I was a second-year student at Wits. But when I saw the opportunity to actually pursue my broadcasting career, everybody was out at fan parks enjoying the football. So I thought to myself, there's no traffic in terms of trying to get TV opportunities. This is my time while my potential competitors are relaxed and enjoying the football to pursue my dream and my passion. So I was studying a Bachelor of Arts in Media and Journalism majors at the time. And that's when I just started approaching broadcasters, sending them an email of my picture, my CV, my profile, voice recording, anything that I could do to prove that I'm a worthy candidate towards listening to, at least. And that's where it started with Soweto TV.
Okay. I wanna just go back a little bit. I
Yeah.
wanna talk about the vet side,
Okay.
the tertiary side. Look,
Yeah.
I spent 2 years at varsity, and I dropped out, didn't complete university.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I had to drop out
Yeah.
was so I was very good when it came to programming. And there's this company that came in and said, look, we'll pay you like you were qualified. Come and work for us. Worst decision of my life. Agreed. I went and I worked for them. And today, when I look back, I always advise my son to say, it doesn't matter who comes and who promises you money and all of that.
Yeah.
Always complete that journey. So I want to understand your varsity journey. I
Yeah.
mean, you speak about during that second year or so where you started looking for jobs and all of that.
Yeah.
But how is university for you at that point in time?
University for me feels like a blessing in disguise. How I got into Wits was by chance. So when I matriculated with 2 distinctions in maths and English. And when when you go to your mom's work and you have your mom's colleagues, Auntie Mamang, le Malum Mamang.
Yes.
So there was Malum Chabu there. And he was like, my child, have you passed? I'm like, yeah, I passed it. So where are you going? Have you applied? What's happening? He no, I'm going to look for a job. I'm not going to school.
Yeah.
He said, what? Where's your report? Show him my report. He says, Tumelo, with distinctions, you have to go to school. He asked one of their colleagues to say, Are, take Tumelo and her mom to Wits, go and make sure that they at least apply.
Sure.
So we get there, and then my mom was like, okay, here are the results, because we didn't apply anything. When other kids last year were applying, people were busy. We're like, where are we going to get the money? So, I must just start looking for a job. I had already started looking for a job at Edgar's at the time, being a cashier and a gift wrapper. So I was like, no, I'm going to grow here. Yeah. I'm going to be a store manager one day.
That's my story.
This is my story here, and I'm happy, my tea breaks and my
Mm.
colleagues. So we went to Wits, and I applied. So they said to me, because you even have distinctions, we're going to give you a discount by your registration per distinction.
Yes.
And then all you have to do is just get, the money. Started applying for bursaries and got my bursary. Yeah. Everything was so quick, and that's how I got to Wits. It was literally by chance. Yeah. If it wasn't for Malum Chabu, I would not have been to Wits University.
Sure.
So my experience there was great. It was amazing. But like you said, I was also impatient to get into the working world so I can help my mom.
Yeah.
So even when I was getting my stipend from my bursary, I was always taking half to my mom, if not all of it to my mom. Yeah. That's why I also cut my hair. What people don't know is that my hair is a financial decision. I always say to people when they think this hair is Queen Nandi, and I heard the beat of the drum under the water in Africa, they were like, "Ay, Mama, Africa." Yeah. I'm like, no, guys. Yeah. It was a financial decision.
A good financial decision.
An investment.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can share my stipend with my mom. So that's how it was for me at varsity.
Mm-hmm. Funny enough, you talk about that. When I was doing my research, I wanted somebody who can not only tell the African story, but somebody who resembles it. Right? I wanted somebody original. And as I was doing research and all of that, I started on my LinkedIn profile. And because me and you, we connected on LinkedIn, I was like, there is somebody that can tell an African story. So and for me, I think, yes, it was a financial decision, but the impact behind it is huge. Huge. Especially in our country. Yeah. I'm sure you've been recognized. You've been told that's a good thing, but I'm sure also you've been told that's a bad thing. Yeah. How did you handle that?
I'll tell you about the bad part, which I don't understand why it's bad, but for some people it is. The Mom Rebecca comparison, like, ribs. I mean, I'm like, guys, Mara, if I'm copying sis ribs, if ever it's a copying thing, sis ribs. So
a legend.
At least, the legend's, legacy is in good hands.
Yes, yes.
So that has happened. Some have often said, come on, change your hairstyle. It's so boring now. Why do you look like a boy? Why do you look like this? I've heard that before. I think for me, though, the humbling part about my haircut is when women and mothers come to me and say, I tell my daughter that, you see, it's okay to have your natural hair. You see, it's okay to be proud of your hair, and to know that it wasn't even intentional for me to try and send that message. I was just trying to save money, but it happened in a way that we all have our insecurities as women. Even God knows, I had my insecurities about my forehead. Whenever I was in school and I used to put in debonding, I would always make a fringe. But God was like, you're going to deal with this forehead. You're going to see it every day now with this haircut, you know?
Yeah.
So I needed that so that I know that I'm perfectly created. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the way that I'm created. So to see women come say, Tumelo, what do you do for your hair? What do you use? Please give us tips. What can we do? Because we want to also wear our hair naturally. I think that was very humbling to experience to this day.
Okay. So let's fast forward. Now
Yeah.
you done with varsity, and
Yes.
you, I assume, the beginning of Soweto TV career?
Yeah, 2010.
2010. How is that?
Ooh, Soweto TV is the reason I am here today, and I always give them their flowers.
Yeah.
It was the happiest time of my career. You know, your first time is probably the happiest. I mean, the first time your first client, your first business meeting, those things are memorable. And I think for me, Soweto TV was training ground that was, oh my goodness, that has pruned me into the broadcaster that I am today. And all my colleagues, I mean, to see them doing amazing things today is so humbling. But I always give credit to my humble beginnings, which was Soweto TV. So I enjoyed my time there.
All right. And I mean, it sounds like it was fun, right?
It was fun. I mean, there were challenging days, of course, but it was fun.
Yeah. Are there any lessons that we can take from there?
Listen, my lessons is to never underestimate humble beginnings, because I remember at Soweto TV, we didn't have, you know, your jib cameras, we didn't have your auto cue. I would have piles and piles of paper to go through, because in a day I would have to record multiple episodes, maybe 2 or more. I was also a student, so I had to balance my schoolwork and Soweto TV. So imagine having piles of paperwork. You have to remember the themes for each segment, remember your guest names, where they come from, with no auto cue, all in your brains.
Sure.
So when SABC came and they had the jib cameras and the auto cue, I remember one time, I think auto cue crashed or something on me, and my producer in my ear at SABC was panicking. Tumelo was so sorry. She just referred to your script, and I'm thinking, if it wasn't for Soweto TV, I would probably project the frustration and the anxiety that we're all feeling in the studio right now. But because I've been doing it for the past 3 to 4 years at Soweto TV, no auto cue, I mean, it was seamless for me just to keep going, to keep going. So I always credit, you know, humble beginnings, that they literally, they are the cement. When you see cement, guys, under a house and bricks, please respect it. It's holding that house. It's literally holding that house. And that's what it was. Strong foundation.
All right. And this is now the beginning of the taste of being famous, although not at a huge scale, but I assume you started being recognized in the streets, especially maybe in Soweto, or wherever you were at that point in time. How's that first taste for you?
You know, my relationship with fame is a bit weird, because I've never seen myself as a famous person. And what I mean is, I've never regarded myself as this brand that is just written brand everywhere, where I eliminate humanity for the sake of brand. I've always been a grandchild. I've always been a daughter, a sister. That's the most important thing to me. So I've never really had, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but a relationship with fame where it's a dance, and, you know, I'm enjoying the fame, and I'm doing red carpets, and I'm at award ceremonies, and I'm dressed by, makeup by, hair by. I've never really, I've never sort of like went down that road. But it was also quite exciting to hear people talk about my work if they were to bump into me. The interesting thing is when people want to continue a conversation about maybe a bulletin that I did, as if we're all friends. So they'll come and say, yeah, ne, G20, ne? These leaders, ne? So what are they saying, Marabu? Like, are they serious?
Can you imagine?
And I'm thinking, I don't even know if they're serious or what's happening. People, can we just, you know, take a break from Ditaba? But I think, that's my relationship with being recognized when we just speak about the work that I did on TV that day.
And did that change any outside friendships that you had? The fact that you are now, I understand how you looked at it, but how you were being looked at. Was there any change in that?
Not at all. Funny enough, my friends that I've had since some high school and some varsity, I'm still friends with. And I mean some from way back in Polokwane before I even moved to Midrand. I'm still friends with, and they ground me. I mean, I don't even think they see the TV thing. You know, they worry about the day-to-day me. They worry about mental health. They worry about, is there bread in the bread bin? They worry about how's your relationship with motherhood? How's your relationship with finances? Are you okay? You know who to call on a rainy day. We've never really interacted about fame and, you know, and no, not at all. I think my friends are, just really grounded people that I grew up with that know the real Tumelo, even before I became a broadcaster. So I'm blessed that I still have them and we're able to grow and nurture our relationship. So nothing has changed, at least from my close friends.
Yeah, because one reason why I'm asking that question, actually, yesterday, I have a famous friend, right?
Yeah.
And he called me to say he wants to go to a Chisanyama.
Yes, yes.
Right. Where should we go where I think he's not going to be recognized in Tembisa?
Okay.
It's like, sure, that's a difficult
That's
one.
a difficult
right?
one, yeah.
But the fact that he had to worry about, he just wanted to go to a Chisanyama and enjoy himself without being recognized. So when you are a teenager and you are now being blessed with this fame, if I may call it a blessing,
Right.
how does it change for you? Because now you can no longer be a teenager that cannot be judged. You can no longer make mistakes that teenagers make, right? Because you're going to be judged unfairly and everybody's looking at you.
Yeah.
How is that for you growing up?
You know what? The fact that I was raised by a strict mother and strict grandparents, that was more at the back of my mind than the judgment from the public. So how do I make sure that I represent my mom well, I represent my family well, I don't get in trouble with my mother, with my grandparents? That was more important than how do I not get in trouble with being seen in public. But because I had that fear for my mom and that respect for her, I think that helped channel me to not get into a lot of trouble while I was on TV as a teenager. Another thing that I think assisted me perhaps is that my now late then editor of current affairs, Datis Fago, at the SABC, when I first started doing Sunday Live, he said to me, listen, Tumelo, you're a news anchor, not a news maker. So I don't know what you teenagers are doing now, because I think I was 18 turning 19 or 19 turning 20 when I got Sunday Live. So he was like, I don't know if you guys are going out until 3 a.m. and then I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is your lifestyle shouldn't be detrimental to your work. I don't want anything you do personally to discredit the work that we're doing, because you must still be credible and found, to be someone responsible if you're going to carry a current affairs program. So I think also him coming as a father figure, giving me that tongue lashing and guidance really and discipline helped me a lot to make sure that I also respect my employer, I respect work. But I think my upbringing definitely also played a role in just keeping me in the straight and narrow as much as possible.
All right. I wanna just go back a little bit, because she comes in a lot in most of the examples and lessons. Your mother.
Yes.
Right. If you were today, I mean, not if you were, you are raising a daughter.
Yes, I am.
What are some of the lessons that you've learned from your mother that you're passing on to your daughter?
Oh, that's a very good question. So one thing my mom has often told me is that I'm not your friend. I'm your mother first. That may sound harsh, but what that means is that I'm accountable to someone when it comes to your life. So your life was leased to me temporarily to steward it in a particular direction. And I have, with the authority given to me as your mother, I have a mandate to raise you. You may not like it. You may not desire it. Unfortunately, my child, I can't help you there. But what you're going to do is that you are going to be respectful to your elders. You are not going to backchat. You're going to do your chores at a certain time. You're going to be responsible, etc., and etc. And I never understood, because I thought it was so harsh, because I'm sure I saw some kids friends with their mothers. Why can't I be friends with my mother? But I think she was just trying to set a boundary to say, when you are a parent, you have a responsibility to steward someone's life in a particular direction. You're accountable to the Lord to make sure that this child He's borrowed you is steward in the right direction, so that it helps her or him in the future. So certain habits that my mom has instilled in me from a young age come naturally now to me as an adult. And that's what propels me in my work, whether it's discipline, whether it's respect, whether it's humility, because I did it so much repeatedly as a child. It's something that comes naturally, you know. Sometimes even I'm sure when you are in Johannesburg and you're in spaces where, I mean, calling sis mama is not necessary or ing, but when you get into a room, no, sis bongile, like bujabu, like they're like, see, like really, I mean, you can just say jabu, no, you know, because you're raised in a particular way that when someone's older than you, umitabuti or sesi, and those are the things that help with relationships, you know, simple things like humility and respect. So, Mama definitely cracked the whip there. She didn't waste time.
And you know what, So I started having conversations with different leaders from a very, very, very young age, because I also started working very young, and I became a specialist when I was 22.
Oh, wow.
In some of the tech that I was developing and all of that.
That's good.
And I was exposed to conferences, to having different conversations with different leaders. I'll tell you something. Almost all the leaders that I've conversated with, they have one thing in common. They were raised by a mother.
Oh, wow.
Or their background and their core is from a female.
That's right.
And it has kind of changed my mindset to start thinking, actually, women make better leaders, right? And here is you now. You are entering SABC. You have, I assume, a different hairstyle. A forehead.
A forehead.
You mentioned, and all of that. How is that for you? I mean, in aspects of leadership.
You know, at that time when I was from Soweto TV getting into the SABC, I was one of the youngest anchors at the SABC. When the SABC was launching Channel 404, we were part of the founding anchors, those who started with the channel, Channel 404. I did a bulletin on weekends called AM News. I also did Sunday Live, Sunday evening on SABC 1. So at that age, I mean, there weren't a lot of young, particularly black female news anchors. Remember, there was a season whereby entertainment was where everybody wanted to be, whether Kisele Matunzi, Live Amp, whether it was whatever, Top Billing, MTV Base, you know, VJ Search. But for one to take a route in news wasn't necessarily something popular. But for young people, we still had to show seriousness. We had to show discipline. We had to show excellence, consistency, that this is not just something that you use to be on TV to propel you to entertainment or to music or something else, but something that you would see to finish. So it was an exciting time to be on the national broadcaster, but it carried a lot of weight.
Yeah, and I assume mental health had to be like very, very strong.
Yeah.
Right? And how was it for you during that time?
You know, for me, once again, going back to my mom, because she was and still is my confidant.
Yes.
My mom has kept all my deepest and darkest secrets. She still has them. And I mean, I know some tell their best friends, I tell my mother.
Yeah.
And at that time when I was getting into a space where at times I was hard on myself, at times you're not sure if you're good enough, you're not sure if you're doing the right thing, or if you're worthy even of this platform, the imposter syndrome is eating at you. I think my mom centered me with prayer. If there's anything Mama said to me at that time to this day, is that you need to be rooted in the Lord, you need to be rooted in prayer, so that even when I'm not here anymore to support you physically, you know that you have a Father that you can always cry to and you can confide in. So that helped me a lot, centering myself around the Word of God, around the Lord, His presence, and prayer helped me a lot even to this day, so that any challenge that I encounter, especially mentally, where it's the voices in your head that keep repeating anything negative that eats at you, that I need to refer into how the Lord views me. And that's the fact. That's how it is, not what the voices are telling me, but how the Lord views me.
Yeah. And I think SAPC now, it's international, right?
Yeah.
The explosion of here is this person. They're very original, right? In front of the TV screens and all of that. How do you stay grounded during that time?
Sure. when it came to, let's say, for example, the identity with my hair and that being identified as, being African and representing your roots or your natural hair or your natural self, it came with the responsibility. It came as a weight because, as I mentioned, there would be young women, there would be mothers coming and saying that this is, what we tell our daughters. So while I was at the SABC, Russia Today News came along. I mean, those were some of the things that we spoke about in our meetings to say we would love to have, an African news anchor that also sort of shows what Africa looks like and sounds like. So the aesthetics as well seemed to have been quite important as part of what they were looking for, so that they have representation in as far as their anchors. Because on the international news desk I sat on, there was an American, an Australian, there was an Indian, there was a Chinese news anchor. And, I suppose that responsibility, once again, with being an African news anchor came along with the opportunity, and I didn't take it for granted.
Yes. And this for you, it's I assume there's a lot of learnings and all of that, and people see you as the person that's very informative and all of that. How does, with your extended family, how does that play? I mean, do they now call you first to ask you, listen, I just watched the news, somebody did this and that, do you know about it? Is it true? I read on Twitter, there's this happening, is it true? Do you ever get those calls?
I definitely, especially when I started, I used to get those calls from my relatives. My uncle used to call me Dr. Mothotaone. Just because I'm on TV. I'm like, sir, this is a lot of pressure. And whenever we'd be around each other, he felt the need to have intellectual conversations. And I'm like, Malume, I just need my uncle right now. Like a Malume. But yeah, I guess that also came with that responsibility to say you surely must be informative when it comes to things like what's happening in current affairs, maybe intel in terms of what's happening with briefings or committee meetings in Parliament. But also, I think just generally your family then sees you as sort of like a book or an archive filled with information. If there's a child that wants to go to varsity, oh, which says do. If there is someone who needs information about what to put in a CV in 2025 and how it should look later, oh no, which says do. So I suppose that also comes with responsibility, because now you're seen as this sort of like poster for information and knowledge, credible at that. So why not ask you if we have your number?
Yeah, I mean, those are the joys of leadership, right? And when does it hit you, if it has hit you already, that actually I'm either entering into leadership or I am now a leader? When does that hit you, and how was it for you?
Sure. I don't think I even see myself as a leader in that context. I think for me, the question is, how can I serve? And it's an interesting transition, Freddy, because I've been on television for 15 years now or so. Yeah, 15 years, from 2010 to 2025. And I've always had this is the only career I know. This is the only thing that I've ever done professionally with excellence consistently for 15 years without fail. I have been on television. And when you've been on a platform in front of a camera, in front of millions every day, the transition to now wanting to be at the back hits differently, because you've always been at the forefront of giving people, knowledge and information, whether it's doing a morning show or a breakfast show or an evening primetime show. You were the front runner, at the front, the forefront of giving information and leading in as far as setting the news agenda. But now, especially since leaving broadcasting, I want to be at the back. I want to serve from behind. I want to wear my boots. I want to take off my makeup. I want to be where the real groundwork is happening, as opposed to reporting about it. So I feel like I'm in a transitional phase in the context of what leadership is to wanting to serve. And when I think about how my grandfather was as a servant leader, I suppose it's come full circle. Because that's where I'm most happiest now, doing things that are not in front of the camera, that are not necessarily seen with makeup and your hair prim and proper, but they are done, at the back, with your jeans on, your dekkies, your t-shirt, and I'm so happy there. I'm my most peaceful there.
And I'm sure raising a young girl and having to go through this transition. And with what's happening in the country, I mean, GBV and all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, abuse comes in very different ways, and I'm sure you've had your own fair share. How do you help build or maybe future-proof your daughter to be ready for this? Because the assumption is obviously she gets associated with you. By that, by the virtue of that, she becomes famous, right? And obviously her mentality must change. How she carries herself, how she gets judged now,
Right.
right? What do you say to her to make sure that she's got at least that mantra, that crucible that protects her
Yeah.
against what you've experienced, especially when you arrived into this new school and all of that?
You know, it's interesting because it's also not so much only what I say to my daughter, what I teach her, but what I show her in terms of what we do. For one, I'm not active on social media, like your Instagram, your Facebooks and stuff. I'm not as active. So I shield her a lot from the social media world. And that's because, number one, she's young. And I think for me as a mother, my way of stewarding her life is I want her to be a child. I want her to be free, to be a child like I grew up. Without the pressure of, like you said, the association. But I also want to give her the agency to decide what she wants to do, who she wants to become with herself and her own name, and the legacy that she was created to build for herself without the pressure of being associated with me. There are times whereby we'll be watching YouTube and maybe a clip of mine comes up and she's like, "Oh, mommy, were you famous? Were you on TV? Are you on TV?" You know, I'm like, "Yeah, once upon a time, you know, mommy was on." She's like, "Oh my God, like that's a big deal," because obviously she wasn't old enough to actually watch news and see me and understand what was happening. But I just wanted to carve out her own niche. The most important thing for my daughter that I would love for her to know is that she is enough. She doesn't need to add or subtract anything from herself. And to allow her confidence to continue to be pruned so that she's better able to express herself, be it professionally in business or be it in academia, be it in the arts, wherever that she is placed. She doesn't need to add or minus anything. And I hope and pray for her that the world doesn't convince her that she needs to add or subtract anything. If I had listened to the world, I would probably look lot differently, sound differently, be in a different space than I am right now. But because I was steadfast and say, no, ke nna tumelo, ke nna setlogolo, and that's my roots, and I'm taking that with me everywhere I go. So it grounds me. I hope that, and I pray that even as she grows older, she also stays rooted in where she comes from and who she is.
Perfect. We've spoken about how you raising your daughter and all of that, and we entered into leadership. And for me, I always say this, and some people, they feel it's a controversial statement. But I always say women make better leaders. Because when you look at all the characteristics of leadership, for women, they actually come naturally. So naturally they would then become better leaders, right? With that in mind, you are tasked with starting a media empire in South Africa. How do you do it? What would you bring in to make it unique for South Africa?
A media empire?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. It's an interesting question because I used to dream and obsess and be fixated on building a media empire, and I am not anymore. I am so gone from there. So actually, when you ask me this question, I'm like, my goodness, this is like a past life. But hypothetically speaking, if it were to happen, what am I bringing? If I were to be given a chance to build a media empire, I think the continent would be of priority. I think South Africa has done so much and it continues to do so much, even on a global scale. We've just hosted the G20. But it's time to carry the continent now with us. And, you know, South Africa being at the forefront of so many firsts in our country, even having presidency, hosting the presidency of the G20, I think it's now time to tell those, you know, African stories. So obviously being biased to news because, you know, I'm from a news background, we need definitely an Africa-focused by Africans for Africans news agency, so that the Democratic Republic of Congo doesn't feel so far away, and Kenya in the eastern parts of the continent doesn't feel far. It feels at just arm's reach, so that the western parts of Ghana and Nigeria don't even feel as far, because we are able now to bring them all closer to one another through this communication medium. So I think for me, as a leader, telling those stories and hearing those nuances of how Africans are trading and how they are living amongst each other, how they're conducting businesses, how they're raising funds for their businesses, etc. Those stories need to be told a lot more, not just as segments on various international news media, but as a priority news agenda setting each and every day on that particular platform. That would be fantastic to me.
Yeah, I mean, I always say to my team, there's a moral decay in South Africa, and for me, it comes from the fact that we're no longer being raised by our grandparents and all of that. Who keeps on telling us where we come from? Who tells us good stories? Who tells us how they were raised, the difficulties, the challenges that they had to endure, right? And here you are, and you had that opportunity of being raised by a grandfather and a grandmother from your early on in your life. And when you look back today, right, your grandfather is sitting in front of you. How do you say thank you?
Ooh. Did you do broadcasting like before Thinking Out Loud? This is the touchdown question. My goodness, how do I say thank you? You know, I can't even put it in words, because I miss them so much to this day. It's been 22 years since my grandmother passed, and about 25, 6, 7 since my grandfather passed. And I think about them every single day. And I think at this point of me missing them, I don't even have words. I just want to give them a hug. And I think that's how I would give my grandfather his flowers, just a big hug. You know, Rahulu growing up used to call me Tongana, because he was saying, when you're so slow, whenever I send you to do anything, you just take your time, you're a donkey, basically. So I can just hear him saying, Donkana, Donkana, calling me, and I just want to give him a hug. And it's for various reasons, Freddy. It's just for, number one, loving my grandmother, because to this day, at my age, the first and only representation of genuine love, and I mean that love that is just makes you secure in your family, in your partner, in your children. I saw it with my grandparents. I mean, even when they had an argument, you wouldn't know. Because, Goku called him Tau, he called my grandmother Mogachaka. So when they were arguing, Tau, Mogachaka, I Tau. I'm like, are you fighting, or, I mean, really, are you saying poetry? So I would thank him for the way that he loved my grandmother, and the way he showed us as young girls, the Mothotaone girls, about, the standard to which we should be loved, which is the way he loved my grandmother. I would thank him for, the way he provided for us. And trust me when I say it wasn't the fancy things. It was time, it was presence, it was those memories that today we've hold on to. I don't even remember, the bread that Rahulu brought us on a Wednesday back in 19 whatever, but I remember the memories when we were singing jazz, Kamontle, under the stars at night, and Goku be like, it's time for your grandfather to sleep. And you know that if you don't sleep, he's not sleeping. So please, my child, just go and sleep so Rahulu can rest. And it's just the unity that he wanted for his family, to always be united, to always have each other's back, to be a tribe ourselves before we expect tribes outside. So I think that would be my thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with me. So fast forward to today. You're sitting here, right? And I'm sure there's dreams and all of that's gonna come in. Do you think, will you ever come back to telling African stories? Or for you, you're looking at maybe telling a story in a different way, but still telling those stories? And while you are thinking about that, is it very important to keep on telling these stories?
That's a good question. I think it's important to tell stories. I think it's important to never stop sharing knowledge, because we are where we are today with the information we have because somebody wasn't selfish with the information.
Yes.
You go to any high primary school, you go to any university, go to a library, somebody shared. I mean, there are books on our table right now as we speak because someone wasn't selfish with information sharing. So those stories need to be told so that our children and many generations to come can have a window peek into how it was in 2025. There'll be somebody in the year 3025, 1,000 years from now. But if we give them a peek into a window into how it was this year and the lessons that we've learned, so they can understand contextually, why they are where they are because of the building blocks that we had to start with from here, that will give one sort of like not only a peace of mind, but a stepping stone to where they need to go. So that's important. Number two, I think it's also important to allow other voices to tell the story and not just the same voice. So I think for me, I am so proud with the contribution that I've made to the broadcasting industry. And I think I've laid my little 1-2 blocks. And I'm excited to see what the new crop of news anchors are doing and laying their, sort of like their own portion of building blocks. And that's fine. For now, I haven't defined exactly what telling stories differently looks like for me, but I'm enjoying the time. I'm away from, waking up in the morning and setting the news agenda for the day or reading headlines. So for now, it's what makes sense to me right now. Yeah.
Okay. Are you continuing? Do you continue the culture of telling stories for your daughter or for those around you, or that has sort of stopped and it's you tell it by maybe example, leading by example, and all of that?
Yeah. I think for me, especially with my daughter, is more leading by example, because children remember more what you do than what you say. So if you do something repeatedly, then they believe that that's how it's supposed to be. So for me and my daughter, it's more of what we do together, but it's not always centered around just storytelling. I mean, I want my child to grow up to be, a very self-assured and confident young girl. So for me, it's making sure that she is safe and she knows that mama is a safe space to tell anything, like my mother is a safe space to talk to about anything. I want her to be respectful to her elders. I want her to know the Lord. I just wanted to grow up having a wholesome, upbringing. So my life it's just about being present for the people that I love right now, being the best I can at being a daughter, a sister, a friend, a mother. And if somehow during our interaction there's storytelling, then that's great. But if I also leave you with the memory of just the time that we spent together, then that's also better.
That's perfect. Tumelo, thank you very much for joining me. You're such a great storyteller and a great leader at that as well. This is Thinking Out Loud, and thank you very much for sitting in and watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you. Until next time, take care.